We are so excited to have this guest here. How many of you are fans of the Mr. Chris March and seen the amazing things that he's created? Well, for those of you that are here and know him, you already know this, but I'm going to read you a short little bio about Chris so you know some of the exciting things that he's done. And of course, now that I hit 50, did I just admit that? I need glasses. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, acclaimed fashion designer and former Project Runway breakout star Chris March is a fashion and costume designer based in New York City. Originally from San Francisco, he worked for 10 years at Beach Blanket Babylon, America's longest-running show, creating their signature outrageous wigs and hats. After moving to New York in 2001, Chris's reputation and career took off, landing him a spot as a designer finalist on Project Runway Season 4. How many are fans of that show? Me too. Now, from elegant dresses to theatrical costumes, Chris March has mastered couture fashion, creating unique pieces appropriate for any event, be it masquerade ball or a red carpet. Chris has designed for some of the world's biggest names, including, this list kills me here, Madonna, Prince, Cirque du Soleil, Beyoncé Knowles, and Meryl Streep, who, incidentally's dress for the 2010 Academy Awards resulted in rave reviews and Streep's placement on many best dress lists. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome to the stage Mr. Chris March.
How is everybody this afternoon? Where's all the costumes? I thought everybody had to come in costume. Well, you've kind of got one on. So I guess we're going to do some questions and answers, and hopefully I can tell you all sorts of dirt that you want to know. And I brought two friends with me, Cleopatra, and I don't know what this one was. This was kind of a Queen of Hearts outfit that I made a long time ago, but most of the heart part is missing except the wig's heart-shaped. So they're here to cheer me on.
Well, Chris, I'm going to move this out here for you.
Yeah.
This chair. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris is actually here. He has a broken rib.
Yeah, so if I move a little strangely, that's why.
Okay. Let me set this down. I'm going to set it down a little more in front so that everybody can see you here.
Thank you.
All right, there you go, Chris. Well, we've got some questions first that we're going to ask you, Chris. Oh.
There we go.
God bless Advil.
Oh, yeah, really? I should do a commercial for Advil at this point.
Well, Chris, I'm going to start off by asking you a few questions, and then we'll take some from the audience, and then we'll do a photo session afterwards.
Okay.
All right. So, Chris, as a designer, you really have a flair when it comes to costumes. Of course, we all know that. Now, are you a fan of Halloween?
Am I a fan of Halloween? Halloween is obviously my favorite holiday, my favorite day of the year. It's been my favorite thing since I was a little kid. Whenever anybody asks me what my favorite thing in the whole world is, my answer is always pumpkins. I started making my own Halloween costumes when I was, I think, 5 years old. I think I wore 2 costumes that were manufactured, and from then on I made all my own costumes. And I started making costumes and entering into costume contests. And I started winning these costume contests. And then I won a $5,000 costume contest in San Francisco and decided that that's what I really should do for a living. And so I got a job at a costume shop, and my career just kind of rolled on from there.
Okay.
So yes, I love Halloween more than anything.
So what was like one of your favorite costumes that you've created? Halloween. Let's just do Halloween. Yeah.
Well, one was a giant martini, where the whole martini glass was above my head, and my head was the olive. One year I was a lobster. I have a weird affinity for lobsters, so I wanted to be a lobster. One of my favorite ones that I ever did was I was Mr. Potato Head. and I won a costume contest with that one. The first costume contest I ever won, I was dressed as a palm tree, and it was at a Rocky Horror Picture Show contest. I'm trying to think of some other ones. There's been so many over the years. I don't even.
Well, I heard now
remember.
Jumping from Halloween that you there was a Christmas pageant that you had done, and you created, I believe, was it a giant silver bell?
Oh.
You were in second grade?
So, yeah.
Is that what kicked it all off?
I don't know why, but I've always had a thing for things that are really big. And so my second grade teacher asked me if I would make the costumes for our Christmas pageant. And the song we were doing was Silver Bells. And so I told her kind of what I wanted to do, and they gave me the materials and let me have like a week off from school and cleared out the back of the classroom so I could have all this room to work. And so I made these giant body prop silver bells that swung back and forth. And, everybody was just kind of astonished that I made something that was big. I don't know. It's always been that way. I've always wanted to make big, fun things. Because why should something be small? I don't know.
There you go. Well, so that leads to a good question. So were you basically a self-taught seamster, or did you have to go and get training to become, as incredible as you are and very quick?
I was never taught to sew. I used to go to, my mother sewed, and she used to take me to sewing lessons with her when I was like 3 and 4 years old. So I used to watch. And then, I don't know, I was curious about what she was doing, so I learned how to sew just on my own. And then over the years, you work with people who are incredible sewers, and you learn all sorts of tricks and things, and that's why my sewing has just gotten better and better and better. It still gets better over the years. I'm not the greatest sewer in the world, but I do fairly well.
Well, of course, now we're very familiar with you and your time on Bravo's Project Runway, and you did Mad Fashion. So, what did those teach you, or what did you take away? Your experiences that you took away from those those experiences, basically.
Well, it's kind of funny. Being on Project Runway was a super incredible learning experience. It's kind of hard to explain the actual. People say, "Oh, is Project Runway actually as hard as it looks?" It's way harder. They make it look like the people actually get more time than they do. You don't get nearly that much time. If they say you can work until midnight, they've taken 2 or 3 hours out of your day easily. I mean, you see those interviews that everyone's doing during the show. Well, they pull you out of the sewing room to do those interviews. So you might lose a couple of hours of working time. So you have to learn to work really fast. You have to learn to work in a room full of other people. You have to learn you kind of have to put your ego aside a little bit and learn how to just make what they're after, because at the end of the day, it's a game and it's a reality show, and if you give them what they want to see, you succeed. If you just make what you want, well, good luck.
So basically, then, what some of the challenges that we've seen, the avant-garde, the couture, the ones that are usually with like some kind of crazy something that none of us would ever think of. What are your thoughts when something like that, when they tell you that morning what you're going to be making?
The more interesting challenges, like what do they call it? The innovative, what do they call it? The Innovative Materials Challenge. Like where they make you go to the Unconventional Materials Challenge, where they make you go to the store. We went to a candy store for that one. I've done stuff like that my whole life. So to me, it was not at all. Like the project that I did right before I got on Project Runway was a fashion show for Wishbone salad dressing, which took place at Grand Central Station and all the clothing was made out of real salad. We had to build everything inside of a refrigerated truck out in front of Grand Central Station and bring the girls out before they wilted. So, I'm used to that kind of thing. So my mind goes right to it. The people who had more formal sewing and fashion educations, I think they were a little bit like, how am I supposed to make something out of candy? Where I have already done it before, so.
Now we know you prefer costumes and couture because of creativity and individuality involved in that type of design. How do you think your life would be different had you won Project Runway and been directed towards marketing a line of more mass oriented apparel?
That's a really good question because, and of course I said this on Project Runway and they cut it out. Of course, what the fashion industry is all about is appealing to a mass market so that millions and millions of pieces will sell. But what they encourage you to do on Project Runway is to be very individual and creative. And those two things never meet in the fashion industry except for in a couture fashion show. And so we were all kind of making things we wanted to see that we wanted to make that would be provocative and interesting. But never was the word wearable ever put to anything that we would make on Project Runway. And it's a different type of career. I've been asked to do lines of clothing. I've been asked by QVC. I've been asked by Home Shopping Network. I've been approached by Macy's. It's not quite yet the thing for me to do. I haven't figured out how to do something that I find interesting enough that they think millions of people will buy. So that's kind of the dichotomy in the fashion world, is you'll end up being more of like a contractor than a designer.
What is your least favorite aspect about designing or creating? If there's any.
A couple of things. At this point, I've been doing this for, say, 35 years, and my hands are very sore. And I get really bad cramps when I make things. The other thing is when you have a client, and I do a lot of corporate work and works for individual clients, basically what I do for a living. And if you have a client that wants you to do something that you don't necessarily really want to do, but you need the money, it's kind of hard. It's hard to do that. It's hard to compromise your vision just so that somebody else gets what they want, even though you can tell them all day that it's wrong or that it could be better. They don't care. And so, everybody does that at their jobs. Fortunately, I don't have to do it as often as a lot of different job types, but that's probably my least favorite thing.
Well, give us some information on Beach Blanket Babylon for those of us who don't know, and what it was like working there, and how do those hats even work?
It's a good question. Beach Blanket Babylon, which the title makes no sense, never meant to make any sense. It's the longest running show in America. It's been running in San Francisco since 1974, which makes it 38, coming on 38 years, I think. And the whole idea behind the show is it's a spoof of popular culture in kind of like 3-minute musical numbers. But everything in the show has, like, every character wears a giant hat or a giant wig or a giant costume, or there's giant dancing bottles and food and all sorts of things. It's definitely like the definition of over the top. Like, the hats, the proscenium of the stage is 11'3", and so every hat that comes out is usually about that tall. And it's a really fun show. It's funny. It's just meant for pure entertainment. They've played for England, for the president, for Prince Charles just came to visit a while ago. It's a great show. It's a great place. A lot of celebrities, they always have celebrities come whenever they come through town. It's just a place on earth like none other.
Well, I've seen it, and it's pretty incredible. It is amazing to wonder how those hats actually work and stay on. Some of them.
So one of the the first time I went to see Beach Blanket Babylon, I was 14, and I sat there and I'm like, one day I'm going to work here. And I think I started working there in 1991. Yeah, I worked there for 10 years. And because basically I wanted to learn how you do stuff like this. How do you put something this big on somebody's head and make it so they can dance around? Or big giant wigs, and these are small compared to beach blanket type stuff. So I was very excited to learn that. And there's lots of trade secrets that I found out. And just experience and using the lightest materials and basically torturing the actors that you put them on.
Oh, well, what price people pay for showbiz, right?
Yeah.
Well, what is your tell us a little bit about what is your design process like? Like, does it change over time or through unforeseen limitations? Or do you achieve the look that you first imagined, say, at all costs?
It depends on how things are presented to me. When somebody presents me with an idea of what they want, I usually have some sort of complete vision within about 10 seconds. And I know how to go about creating it. And so that's kind of the main way that I make things, is I have a vision and I figure out how to make the whole thing from start to finish. Other times people come to me and they have limitations or have specifics about what they want, like the fashion show made out of all the lettuce. It's like, I wouldn't have made things made out of lettuce unless I was, prompted to think that way. And then I had to think of all sorts of different ways to get vegetables and lettuce onto these dresses and how to figure it out and how to keep them cold and how to make them fit. And they're heavy because they're made out of real vegetables. And there's all sorts of things to overcome. But generally, a vision just pops into my head and I go about making it as close to that as possible.
So at all costs?
Pretty much. I've gone pretty far sometimes to try to figure out some things. I just because I want it to look a certain way, and if I can't find whatever it is that I'm looking for, I'll just make it, custom make it somehow. It's just, if it has to be that way, it has to be that way.
Right, so basically there are aspects of costumes that you're just not willing, even with a client, to compromise on, correct?
No.
Yeah. Well, you've got your trademark on there. It's your name. It's got to be right.
Well, and hopefully, I'm very lucky because at this point, people hire me to do exactly what it is that I do. So, I don't necessarily have to compromise a lot. People are after exactly what it is that I make. So.
Absolutely. Well, you don't have to share specific names with us. I know people want to know the dirt. But tell us about one of your worst experiences with a client and how you dealt with it and how you managed to finish the project.
Wow. That's kind of interesting. Celebrities are sometimes difficult to deal with. Not all the time. Some are actually quite gracious. Meryl Streep is the nicest, most wonderful person you'll ever meet, and very helpful. Most people don't know this, just as an aside. Meryl Streep does not have a college degree in acting. She has a college degree in costume design because her mother refused to let her get a degree in acting because she didn't think it was a sellable enough thing, believe it or not. And so she actually has a degree in costume design, so she'll tell you exactly what she wants. I have had a couple of experiences where, I mean, most of the time, if you're working with a celebrity, what you're working with is their stylist. So you call up their stylist and you talk to them and you send them a sketch, and then supposedly they've shown the sketch to the celebrity, everything's fine. Go ahead, I've sent pictures of fabric, I've done all sorts of things. And then when I've gotten there for a fitting, they said, oh, this isn't what I expected at all. I said, well, I sent you a sketch, a photo of the fabric, everything. And a lot of times it's just miscommunication. And so my whole thing is, and after years and years and years and years of doing this, you kind of learn to become quite charming in fittings with people and ask them if they would just be willing to try the whole thing on so that they can see the look that I had in mind. And lo and behold, as they put on the separate pieces, then they go, oh, okay, all right, this is okay. And then they put on the next thing and they're like, oh, I look really cute in this. And then I say, okay, now put on your shoes. They put on their shoes, and then all of a sudden they're dancing around in the mirror like it's their favorite thing in the whole world. So you have to be charming. And I've learned some other things. I don't know, this is like a horrible trick that I do a lot of times, but I just did an event with Mattel this last fall, and the client told to me to be very difficult. So basically what I did was I went out and bought a pair of shoes that I knew would fit her, but that I would never use for the outfit, and she tried them on, and she was like, oh God, I love these. I said, well, just keep them. And she was my best friend from then on. You know, sometimes it's worth paying $50 for a pair of shoes. Have somebody be on your side. I know that sounds sneaky, but sometimes you'd be surprised at what people will make you go through.
Okay, well, we're going to switch gears here now because in the green room, you and I were talking, and I think the audience is going to be, we'd love for you to tell the audience about this, but can you tell the audience about the Buttcracker Suite and what kind of time that you put into producing this?
So I did a show this last holiday season in New York called the Buttcracker Suite. It's a spoof of the Nutcracker that takes place in a trailer park with dancing beer cans and Spam cans and dancing pink flamingos and ugly sweaters and all sorts of fun things. I basically put the whole show together in I'd been planning it since April, but I got probably 2 months to put the whole thing together. And then, of course, the hurricane canceled our first week of rehearsals, which was difficult. But then we got the whole thing going, and it was actually a great experience. It was a great show, and we got lots of really, really great reviews. And it was interesting to be the boss of everything, because I was the producer, the writer, the director, the designer, the set designer. I was everything but the lighting designer, basically. So it was interesting to kind of have that perspective.
So you wore a lot of hats.
A lot of hats.
All designed by Chris March. Okay, well, we've got one more question here, and then I'm going to let the audience ask a couple questions because we want to get to your photo autograph session. But what is coming up for Chris March next? 2013. What are we going to look forward to?
Hopefully, well, one thing that I've been having meetings about right now is, and this is not a secret because he announced it on British television, but Cameron McIntosh, who is the producer of Les Mis and Phantom of the Opera and all that, is doing a new project for Broadway, and they want to hire me to do the costumes, which would be really fun to work with that big of a budget. I've never come close to that big of a budget before. I have another thing happening that I unfortunately can't tell you about, but it'll be announced in May.
You're teasing us.
I know, I have to tease you, otherwise they'll sue me. But we'll just say it has to do with Halloween, and it'll be something that'll be for sale in many stores in America. So
Well, we'll look forward to
you
that.
can have a little piece of Chris March costume this Halloween.
Ooh, we like that. We'll look forward to it, Chris. Well, this has been a pleasure. We are so happy that you came to see us.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we look forward to more and more Chris March and all of the fabulous things that are coming out 2013 and, well, just all in the future. We hope to see more of you on TV. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up one more time for the fabulous Chris March.